get involved. It's not as easy because there's not as much face to face, and there's, not a lot of that, but there's a lot of online community where you can get involved and understand what people are looking for, what they're doing on a daily basis.
Welcome back to another installment of the NextGen Case Study series. On today's episode, we have Jen Miller, who is the Chief Sales Officer at Bamboo Solutions, where she oversees the company's sales strategy and performance. With over 20 years of experience in digital marketing, corporate leadership, and sales, Jen has consistently driven growth and innovation through customer-centric strategies. Her extensive career includes leadership roles in operations, experimental marketing, and community impact initiatives, which is why we're excited to have her on the show. Jen, welcome to the program.
Great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. I'm really excited to get into some of the work that you're doing here with Bamboo. We were talking off camera, and there seems to be some momentum that you guys are gaining here. But before we get too far into it, Jen, I'd love to start with just a quick little background on who you are, where you came from, and how you landed here at Bamboo.
Yeah, that's quite the story. I actually grew up on a dairy farm. So everything from a dairy farm to CSO, but here I am. So I went to college and studied computer programming. So I was actually writing code for several years, then went into project management, then started leading delivery teams and growing accounts, which suddenly moved me into sales. So it's been quite the evolution over the past 20 years. But at the end of the day, the reason I went into technology was to solve problems. And that's the one thing that I've really tried to remain consistent about, was just helping people solve problems.
Yeah, that as a general kind of guiding North Star, I think really helps bring purpose to the work that you do, especially when it's in such an intangible space like marketing and sales and things like that. A lot of it is people and relationships and things like that. And so to have something that kind of moves you forward and being the problem solver is really great. So as you kind of you said, it's a bit of a wild story here with Bamboo Solutions and some of the kind of evolution of the company and what it's done. I'd love to maybe explore how your role has evolved in the time that you've served.
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty new here at Bamboo Solutions. Only been here for about 8 weeks now. Um, I came in to really help grow the commercial services team from a sales and delivery side of things. So Bamboo Solutions offers products that sit on top of SharePoint Online. So we have a lot of great intranet kind of plugins to help people stay connected and build a community, and easy to find things inside their organization. But on the services side, we help customers understand, like, what are some of those basic things that, we do because we do it, right? And then
Mm.
somebody comes in from the outside and says, why do we do it that way? And we're like, well, we've always done it that way. Those are the things that we want to, like, find and solve for. So one of the hardest things about this role right now is finding the right messaging, right? You can't just say, tell me your problems, we're going to fix them. So what do we do, right? We fix problems, we solve problems, we build solutions. Well, what does that mean to anyone that I'm talking to? So it is about building those relationships, understanding what the organization's going through, taking a step back and watching how they work, so that, we can come in and say, so why do you do it that way? And hopefully help them with some automation, with some better processes, and fixing some of those maybe manual kind of mundane steps that they have to take right now.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you kind of pointed at that. One of the things that I've noticed in a lot of the conversations that I've had, and just in general in the marketing ecosystem, is that there has been this shift from, hey, what's the problem that you're having? Let us solve that for you. And people just aren't receptive to that anymore. And the shift has gone into more educational based selling, where it's, hey, this is everything that you need to know about a problem that you may or may not have. And if you just so happen to have that problem, raise your hand by watching this video so that we can use technology to continue to market to you and provide a list of solutions. So there's um, I think I think it just goes to show how the consumer has educated themselves enough to understand where they are in the whole, I guess, pecking order of things. And I don't like that term, but just in the whole kind of grand scheme of it all. Here's where
Mhm.
we are. These are the problems that we're having, and hopefully that there's a solution. The only way that we can solve that is by learning more about it. And
Yes.
so, what are you doing with Bamboo to kind of position for that or get in front of that wave? Is that something that you guys are addressing?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like, oftentimes we don't know the problems that we have, right? Because we just deal with them, because we
Hmm.
work around them, because that's our job. But what we're trying to do is exactly what you said by educating. So using thought leadership instead of a strong sales strategy, going out and saying we can solve all your problems, being the thought leader and sharing experiences from one organization to another. They don't have to be the same organization,
Hmm.
but they can have very similar, problems or inefficiencies. And so helping them identify where they're inefficient, where they could be better, whether that's a time saver, a money saver, um, a manual error prone process that we can kind of come in and help fix. But a lot of it really is just education, thought leadership, sharing experiences, so that they can identify, oh, you know what? We actually do have that problem. We didn't think of it as a problem until we started to kind of unfold what was going on there.
And so, in those efforts to kind of go after people from that perspective of education,
Mhm.
what have you done to kind of systemize that? Because I know that that's a challenge for a lot of companies at every level of the game. This isn't just a mom and pop problem. It is a problem for the Nikes and Apples of the world too, because they're still doing these, I call them straight for the kill ads, right? Where it's like, hey, we got this product, come buy it from us because we're the best. And like, cool, you've been around for 100 years and you might be really good at what you do, but there's nothing here that's useful for me. And so we don't engage with that anymore. So
Mhm.
there's this issue now with most companies in that you're not just a company that solves for XYZ, right? We're not just SaaS or we're not just a service company. We're also now a media company. It has become our duty and responsibility to create content that serves our audience. What have you done to address that as a theme in the world of marketing?
Yeah, I think one big thing is just identifying our customer base, right? Trying to figure out we can't be all things to everyone. That's what we're here talking about. So
Hmm.
we also not only are we not everything, but we also have to kind of drill into who our audience is and who we really want to tailor to. But then I think it's about being consistent. So it's not a quick win anymore. It's not send out an email blast and you're going to get, 20 leads the next day. It's really about consistency. It's about not giving up and kind of continuing to put out content until you become a familiar face, right? And I know that's the same, I'm sure, with even like the podcasting world. The more you get out there and the more people start to watch, the bigger the audience grows and the more applicable you become. And I think that's really what it's all about. I mean, working LinkedIn, working where people are naturally. Email campaigns, that's tough. I know I don't open, if I don't know who you are, I'm probably not going to open the email. And so yeah, I realize that, that's a hard spot to be in. But really it's just entertaining other avenues, creating blog posts, using things in that way. But it's over time, it's building a brand, it's becoming consistent and showing your value over time.
And building those relationships, right? Like, because that's
Yeah.
a lot of this is we can't just attribute our marketing to one specific thing. Like I ran an ad on Facebook, somebody clicked on it, and therefore I sold a thing. It's not that simple anymore. There's so many, somebody will see a clip from your podcast, then try to Google you. They might land on your page, they might not. Then maybe they land on your social media. And because they're scrolling through that, they see an ad, they engage with that. And we say, Facebook did it. But it was the podcast that you did 6 months ago that talked about that very specific pain point that this particular person had that sparked that journey. So, what sorts of challenges and bottlenecks have you experienced with Bamboo Solutions in that regard of like how do we follow our people and really more intentionally nurture these relationships?
Yeah, I think one of the struggles too is that it used to be much easier to go do a client visit too.
Mm,
So, we're working with companies, and I spent a lot of time on the road going out to offices, spending time meeting more people than just that one contact that I had in an organization.
yeah.
That's a lot more difficult with this hybrid environment that we have now. So, even some of those strategies are becoming more difficult. I did do a client visit last week. It was wonderful. It was so great to like be in the office, to meet extra people, to sit down and just talk about some of their challenges, what their plans are, what they'd like to do if they had time and money. Those are good opportunities, but they take a lot more work these days because there is a scheduling effort. Even the team that I visited, it was like 6 or 7 people, but most of them don't come in to the office every day. So, being able to schedule those things and kind of get in front of people, it's really hard having video conferences and phone conversations. Most of us are multitaskers, and often you can tell when, you're starting to lose the audience. They might be checking an email, checking phone. So really that's one of the biggest struggles is making sure that, even when you think you have their attention, that you really do have their attention.
Well, and it's kind of speaks to this an underlying issue that I don't think anybody really is acknowledging or wants to acknowledge, which is that we're kind of in this over optimize everything mentality where we need to get the fastest time to lead, the fastest lead to conversion, the fastest conversion to success story that and because of that, I've noticed that there is a trend of people skipping over that, hey, let's just sit down and have a
Yeah.
conversation like humans. I I regret doing it. Earlier today, I was in doing another recording for another podcast, and we have a very specific kind of time frame, right? We try to aim for a 20 to 30-minute window to respect the viewers, and so it's important that we be concise. But I get to the end of this conversation, I'm like, oh man, we could have gone so much deeper, which I'm sure this is another one of those situations where, Jen, I hate to cut you off at the end of our, allotted time here, but so there's a
Yeah.
balancing act, is what I'm trying to point at between let's go deep, let's be intentional, let's have meaningful conversations, let's build a relationship, build rapport, really get deep on what your problems are so that on both fronts, hey, you know that I know what's going on, and then you know that I'm capable of solving that problem. Um, what's your approach to balancing that? How do you guys, or how, like you and the work that you're doing or your team, how do you balance that, go deep while also staying efficient?
That's a great question. I think it's something that we're still, always going to be trying to evolve and work through. Um, one of the big
Mm,
things that I'm working on that we don't have a lot of right now is some quick and easy like video case studies. I think leveraging those relationships that we have built and the good work that we've done and the savings that we've been able to help our customers with, um, allowing them to vocalize that and share that. And again, I think, it comes down to those quick segments. So we're not readers these days. We don't want to read a 5-page case study on why they should work with Bamboo Solutions. Maybe a 2-minute video or a 1-minute video about it is a little bit more appealing. So just kind of trying to evolve the interaction that we can have with customers and prospects, and make it short and simple, because again, it comes down to time. We don't have a lot of time. We're always busy. Everyone's busy. So we want to make it short and simple.
Yeah, that's really powerful to get very clear on what specifically I want to help with, and then to try to distill that down in a way that's going to be useful. So when it comes to empowering the team and enrolling the
Mhm.
team in that vision, uh, what sorts of challenges do you think come up for businesses to kind of help get everybody on the same page?
Yeah, and it does take everyone. I mean, everyone in the organization, that's kind of my big motivator is that we're all in sales. No matter what your role is within the organization, you're in sales and marketing because you are the face, you are the voice, you're having interactions. Um, I do things like monthly spiffs for employees to go and answer questions, get involved with the community, go out to Reddit, go out to LinkedIn, look for people who are struggling and just answer their questions. Just get involved and put your name out there, put our name out there as, the experts, knowing what's going on and staying on top of things. It's going to help them to also just stay on top of really what the market's saying, what's the market need these days.
Yeah, and just having everybody kind of click on that same idea of where can we bring the most value? Where can we create connections where there weren't any? And also demonstrate that there is an authority. Like you are capable of solving,
Yeah.
a specific set of issues. It's really, really powerful. So when it comes to the advent now of the big buzzword. Everybody's talking about AI, automation, la large language models, the generative stuff. There's a lot of really cool new tools that are coming out, but it's very, so I'll say two things, Jen. First of all, it's very early.
Okay.
In that the technology has been researched for quite some time, but it's not been publicly available at scale the way that it is currently. And so this is new for us all as in terms of like an experiment. Um, but also, this is the worst that it's ever going to be. It is only going to get better from here. So one survey I remember reading about, they did a test on AI voice tools, and I think there was a 86% of people couldn't tell the difference between the AI voice and a human that they potentially could have been talking to. But then there's also the nefarious actors out there who are using these technologies for not great things. What's your perspective on how AI is being implemented, where it fits, where it doesn't fit? Are you more of a kind of stand on the sidelines and watch this unfold kind of a player, or are you in the game getting dirty with the rest of us? Where do you sit on that?
I would say I'm in the game, definitely rolling up my sleeve, trying to figure this out. I was in college back in the late 90s, and my favorite class was AI, was artificial intelligence. And I was telling my son, who's now in college, about that. And he was like, "Really? They had AI back then?" And I said, "Yeah." And I remember I had to describe to a computer the difference between a dog and a cat. And that was not an easy task. So I've always been very interested in kind of where this could go, where this could take us. I've always kind of read up on it and kept up. But you're right, we're at this kind of integral spot right now where it's starting to get scary, right? We're starting to see AI bots teaching themselves, learning more, getting smarter than the humans. At the same time, so how much of it do I leverage? How much do I, kind of fear for what's going to happen next or where we're headed? Um, I would say I kind of play the middle ground. I mean, I love using it for helping me figure out things about the industries that I'm looking into to help craft some communications. I'm very careful to keep them personal though. So I do enjoy like leveraging it to get the kind of message or some of the broad points, the broad strokes. But again, when it comes down to blast emails or certain messages, I don't want it to be too generic. You want to make sure that you're staying personal, that again, it's back to those relationships. So it's a fine line because here we are. We spent most of this time talking about building relationships, and yet now we're talking about this automated kind of personality and where does that fit? It's not easy. There's not an easy answer, but I think that it can only get better. We're going to figure it out, right? There's so many good positives when it comes to education, healthcare, just different ways that it's going to be a huge benefit to us. I think we're just all a little bit caught off guard with how much it's involved with white collar jobs, right? We saw the blue collar a couple, maybe a decade ago, where it became a big concern with robots coming into manufacturing and all these things happening. And now we being the white collared sort of group, we all thought, oh, well, we're safe. And now look at where we are, right? It's not that, we're all going to lose our jobs, but it's definitely being impacted.
So yeah, somebody said it's not the people, it's not people that are going to lose their jobs. It's people who fail to leverage the tool properly who are going to be replaced with people who are willing to experiment, try, and get better at using the tool. And that really made it more important to me to figure out how to use the tool.
Yep.
And now it is a integral part of almost my I think I use it every single day, if not
Yeah.
for a majority of the things that I do. And it didn't happen overnight, right? Like I didn't one day just show up and be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, do this one thing for me," and then it worked perfectly, because that never happens, right? Like it's a dangerous tool in the hands of the right people. However, it is still just as good as what goes into it. And so you really have to be intelligent and intentional, thoughtful about what it is that you're trying to create with it. And I'll use this as an example. You could go to Google and ask Google or maybe Quora or Answer the Public or whatever and look for, hey, what questions do people have about, this specific topic, mortgages, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of questions that you could come across. And then let's say if you were a mortgage broker and you wanted to write things about mortgage brokerage stuff and you needed good questions, well, there's a great place to start. But now you still manually, you got to take the time. It takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours to sit down, like very carefully curate an answer to this very complex question that seems simple on the surface, but as soon as you start unpacking it, you don't know where it's going. And okay, well, what would it look like if I just said, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me 10 questions that are most commonly asked about mortgages." And then in 4.5 seconds, I have those questions. Then I could take the first one and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, write me a blog article that comprehensively answers this question." Okay, now we're getting somewhere,
Yeah.
right? What if you want it to speak in a certain way, use a certain tone of voice, and use a certain characteristic that you
Mm-hmm.
admire? Like, do you want it to be cold and brash and just straight to the point? Because to some people, that's valuable. To others, you might want a more nurturing and careful tone that kind of is gentle and walks people through it without offending your faculties. And so that could be something that you prompt for. And so now we get really deep on the practical application of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
really cool that you're in there, you're rolling up your sleeves, you're giving this a go. What have you found to be the most useful, and where do you struggle the most when it comes to using some of these tools?
Well, I think for me, my entire career has been based on being able to be creative, and I'm okay with failing fast, right? But being able to be creative and having an impact. I mean, I've left jobs because I felt like my impact was no longer as big as I felt like it could be or should be. And so
Mhm.
keeping in mind creativity and impact, when I first dove into this, chat GPT and everything, I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take my creativity away. It's going to take my impact away. But I quickly realized that no, that is the value that I add, right? So
Right.
chat GPT is gonna come back with an answer for me. It's gonna write great articles maybe for me. But if I'm not implementing and offering the creativity and showing, and that's going to be my impact, right? So I think it's finding that balance, but definitely making sure that I keep my creativity as part of what I'm doing. I think that's a personal piece that I need to make sure I keep at the top of the list.
Right. AI, the one thing that it can't do, still, and I don't think it ever will do, is be human.
Yeah.
So no matter how we look at it, I think you're right, Jen. We have an advantage in our ability to be creative and then leverage the tool for um, to serve that creativity. That's a really great point. Um, so as we kind of come to a close with our time together here, Jen, I wonder if we could look forward a little bit at some of the big goals that are on the horizon for the work that you're doing with Bamboo. What are you excited about? What's coming down the pipeline? What's in store for the future of Bamboo and you?
Yeah. I think continuing to develop, really where our direction is. So again, 8 weeks in, I started kind of focusing us. I started building a team, adding some different, resources and capabilities to what we can offer. So I have some time yet to kind of continue down that path and figure out where our sweet spot really lives. But at the end of the day, it's building solutions, right? So we want to be a solution provider. We don't, I said early on the problem solving, that's good, but building solutions is kind of where we are now, and being able to take those solutions out and help other people. I think, part of that is really wrapping in some AI. So we do a lot with Power Automate, creating automation and building solutions that way, building applications, but starting to get into, incorporating Copilot, Microsoft Copilot into that, so that, it can help to make decisions or help, move us forward a little bit faster, give us that advantage where it's applicable and where it makes sense.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I'm excited with you in that adventure, being that it's you've had a very limited tenure here so far, and so to really get in there and get dirty and look at ways that you can improve current systems and things like that. I appreciate the challenge that's ahead of you, and I'm excited for the work that you get to do here. Um, I guess the last thing I would ask, Jen, is if you could maybe offer some advice to others out there in similar roles who are kind of up to things, facing challenges, maybe experimenting with some of this stuff. What sort of advice might you offer those people?
Stick with the basics, right? Like, you know, go in very tactical. Don't go in try to, take over the world, but think about the everyday. Think about the things that, you're doing. Observe others, how they're working and how they're learning, how they're getting up to date on the latest and greatest, and get involved. It's not as easy because there's not as much face to face, and there's, not a lot of that, but there's a lot of online community where you can get involved and understand what people are looking for, what they're doing on a daily basis. And I think that's so important, is where are you today? And, how can we look for the little things that can just continue to make us better?
You reminded me of a really simple concept, but very powerful. The first small domino.
Yeah.
And if you could just knock that first little one over, it grows and grows, and then eventually you'll knock over all of the big dominoes that you didn't think you could. But it starts with that one little thing. I love that that's a part of that. Jen, if somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is great. I'm out there on LinkedIn, as well as through Bamboo Solutions. You can reach me at jenm@sharepointexperts.com.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes for anybody that's watching and listening and wants to get in touch with you. That's how you would go about doing that. And on that note, if you want to reach out to me and my team for any of your marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us for this conversation, and I will see you in the next.